Yeah, it's chronic and old, and so it probably came beforehand. So you can see when we look at her, wall here of the ilium here, see how straight and fine it is?
Okay.
And see how here it comes out like that?
Yeah.
And then this is the femur here, and this is the head. So the head is still sitting inside the cup. It just broke away from that area there. And that can cause some problems. They can have some residual lameness with that, because the head itself will have a little stub on it, the neck has a stub on it, and the two can contact each other.
Oh,
and so that
okay.
can cause some problems as well. So that's just a head sitting in there. Now, because you've got that deviation, it means it was broken through that point. And,
Oh, sorry.
that's all
Let's
right.
get that back up.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it was deviated there, it was broken through that part of the shaft. Now it's old and quiet and it's all healed. Now it's really a matter of just working out what issues are related to it. Now, when you do have femoral neck fracture, that femur will slide up a little bit higher, and you will end up with often kneecap instability. So the kneecap instability may be secondary to the fracture.
And then is this femur, oh shoot, is that femur shorter? Like on that side? It looks shorter.
It looks shorter because it can't be as extended as far, because the head's still in the socket.
Oh,
so what I
okay.
tend to do with dogs like this, if I do get hip pain, I'll go in, and I've got a special approach which is just sort of been starting to be used around the country. I'm involved in part of it. We just got one paper published yesterday. Found out today.
You got a paper published?
Well, because we've worked out how to get to the hip through the groin. So traditionally we came through the outside. When you go through the outside, you've got a detached part of the gluteal muscle. It's a much more invasive approach, and then you can pull the hip out and do it that way. Now, when we go through the groin, we can get access to the hip joint without cutting any muscles at all. It's just trickier. So I'm now teaching that approach around the country. I leave next week to teach 18, 19, 20 surgical residents. It's going to be a nightmare. In Phoenix, about how to get to that area. And we're starting to publish a couple of papers. We have 2 papers currently under preparation. We found just one of them just got accepted to be published today, about if you do it through the groin, do you get as much access to the hip or not? And the study was done in Georgia with a friend of mine who's a surgeon professor there, and so he found that it was, and it was just as good. So we're kind of excited about that side of it. So if it's hip pain, we get rid of it that way.
Okay.
And often we see kneecap instability secondary to the hip problem, because once you break there, what happens is, can you give me a pelvis, please, Meg? What you'll find is the normal pelvis and the other one is that the femur slides up. And so it makes the leg functionally a little bit shorter. In you and I, because we stand with a straight leg, a shorter leg's a bad deal.
Right, because we'd be
You either need
limpy.
a bigger sole on that side, or you'll have to have surgery. So in dogs, because they stand with a bent hip, bent knee, bent ankle, they can straighten up their hip much more effectively. So if you hold that for me, Meg.
Thank you.
So-
I'm videotaping this because I'm going to have to fundraise.
That's all right. So what happens is...
This is interesting, right?
What happens is with this is the hip here, if they break through there and the head stays inside, and you've got a piece of the neck attached to both the shaft here and the head, they'll rub here. And so if you can remove that head out of there through the new groin approach, so instead of coming from the outside, you come through what's called a ventral approach from the inside like this. I can take that head out.
Oh, okay.
And it's through an incision that's about this big, and they don't even know they've had it. It's very, very effective. So it's a very good surgery. Megan's seen them for years. We've been working on this process for years, and we're finally now at the stage in the last probably year and a half where we're teaching it to people around the country.
Wow.
So, better deal.
So Maya, you're going to get a brand new technique that's better. Would you enjoy that?
Well, she says
Will people donate to you? Say, please donate to Maya.
So we'll see. There are ways to deal with it. That may be causing the kneecap issue. So by resolving the hip, straightening up and working out what's going on with the knee, we can work it out. The other thing that we need to ascertain is this. How straight is her femur? Because in dogs, not only do they have a problem with the connection of the kneecap below the knee, but some dogs also have a bend in their femur. Now, these
like what happened here.
if you look at her x-rays,
Let's pull up those x-rays. Okay.
We're looking to see, the first thing I'm looking to see is how straight she is. Now, it looks like she's pretty straight. She's got a little bit of a curve.
All right.
A little bit of curve I don't worry about. A little bit of a curve means that the problem is probably below the knee rather than being it. So a combination of the leg shortening when you have a fracture and having the wrong connection site below makes the problem. The interesting thing is my brother had exactly the same fracture.
Really?
He was hit by a tree in Canada, had it repaired, it collapsed, and he got a short leg, and he did. He had about a 15 millimeter leg discrepancy, and he needed a total hip replacement.
Wow.
So that's the other option for people and bigger dogs, total hip replacement. We do that sometimes depending on the size of the dog and how well they're using their leg.
Okay.
So lots of options. The next step is we'll check it out, see what happens.
Okay. So do you